Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon for some of you in Africa and Europe. Thank you very much again for coming to our third webinar series on Nile Talk, which is a forum that works on bringing expertise on Nile and transboundary river issues of the world, mainly to discuss ideas targeting and diffusing tensions and also sharing the common good. So how to really collaborate and cooperate together in the course of utilizing the transboundary river. So this is an effort being organized by the FIU Institute of Environment, where I work, and also co-organized by the UNESCO Chair of Sustainable Water Security at FIU. We have a chair over here. And also Addis Ababa Institute of Technology at Addis Ababa University, Barda Institute of Technology at Barda University, the Nile Basin Disclosure, which is a basin-wide organizations, and also Water and Land Resource Center at Addis Ababa University are also our co-organizers. So today's talk is by Mr. Mikhail Abebe, who is currently serving as the Vice President of the International Commission on Large Dams, or ICOLD. And the topic is going to be dam safety management in Ethiopia. He has worked for so many years on dam management and dam safety, so it will be a good opportunity for us to hear from him, from the many years of experience that he has worked with within the Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy in Ethiopia, as well as NBI. So to say a few words, Mikhail has a basic degree in hydraulic engineering and an MSc in hydropower development, very specific, very focused training. Has also over 25 years of work experience in dam and hydropower sector, covering national, sub-basin, and Nile Basin wide scale. So he will be one of the very few experts in this area, specifically working on dam and hydropower. Since January 2013, Michael has been at Regional Dam Safety Coordinator for the Eastern Nile Technical Regional Office in Turok, which is still part of NBI. And in that capacity, he really works very closely with so many experts, particularly on regional dam safety, including, of course, our GERD. Before that, Mikhail was head of dams and hydropower department and team leader and project manager at the Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Electricity before he assumes his new role with an intro. And currently he is also serving as vice president for the International Commission on Large Dams, or ICOLD. As I said it before, the topic of his talk today will be dam safety management in Ethiopia. He will also a little bit touch about GERD, but mainly on dam safety generally. Because in our international conference, if you remember, there was a dam safety question that has been raised, and definitely those things will be actually entertained today. Our moderator will be Dr. Wosenu Abeto, who has been a colleague with me for over 20 years. He's a principal engineer and consultant at Water and Environment Consulting. He's also an affiliated faculty at the Department of Environment, the FIU, author and editor of over 6 books and widely published on water resource areas. So most of his books are actually online, and currently also he is a co-editor of a book that we are working on Nile and GERD, past, present, and future. So a few reminders, please make sure that your microphones are actually muted for the duration of the presentations, unmute to ask questions after the presentation ended, and when the time for Q&A comes, you can send your questions through chat, or you can actually raise your hand and ask questions. With the approval of Mikhail, we can record this video, and then it can be actually available later on. Okay, so with that, now I will leave the floor for Wosenu to invite Mikhail to give his talk. Thank you.
Okay, we're very happy to have Mike speak today on dam safety. So now we'll let him have the screen. And then
Candice, can you allow him to share his screen? Maybe make him a co-host.
And
Yes.
questions will be at the end of the presentation.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Mikhail, can you?
Yes.
You're a co-host now. I think you can share your PowerPoints.
Okay. Do you see my presentation?
Yeah, but no, we see your file. So go to and maybe stop sharing and then reshare again your PowerPoint. We see your files.
Oh,
Maybe say stop sharing and then you can.
yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can. Yes, yeah. Now we can see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Asafa, and also for the university to give me the opportunity to present the dam safety development in Ethiopia. And I would like to say that this any opinion presented or reflected in this presentation is my views. It doesn't represent either my organization, the Eastern Atlantic Regional Office, nor the International Commission on Large Dams. So this is my outlines of the presentations. There are 6 sections to discuss on the context, basic concepts that's more on the dam safety aspects, policy strategy and guidelines. This gives you an idea how the policy and strategy is developed with respect to the dam safety in Ethiopia, and also the national arrangement, how the dam safety is arranged in Ethiopia, and also about the practice, means the experience, Ethiopian experience on dam safety management, starting from developing guidelines to practical assessment of dams. And finally, I will try to give you the conclusion and key message from my presentation. In the context, I think this is just some overview of about the water resource development of Ethiopia. The population is estimated about 110 million, and surface resources is about 123 billion cubic meter, of which 91% is flow out of the country. That is a transboundary basin. And there are also about 12 river basins, 7 of which are transboundary, and 3 of them are actually dry basins. And the groundwater potential, as such, there is no concrete study on that, but it was estimated in the range of 36 to 40 billion cubic meter. And the irrigation potential is about 5.3 million hectares, of which is developed less than 8%. And also the economically exploited hydro potential. In the hydropower sector, it is estimated about 161 terawatt hour. It means this is economically exploitable, not as such a gross, but in the range of 30,000 to 40,000 megawatt, but of which only 9%. Currently, it is, I think, about 4,000 megawatt is developed. So this is just to give you an overview of the hydropower and water source development in the country. And this section gives you an idea about the key challenges of water resource development in the country. That is the rapid population and economic growth, which is significantly demanding the meeting of this food, energy, and water demands. And also high spatial and temporal rainfall variability. This is also a critical challenge for water source development, particularly in the agricultural sector and also energy development. That is because of the flow variability in the rivers. High dependence on biomass. It's estimated that more than 70 to 80% of the population depends its energy from biomass. So that would lead to deforestation and erosion. Low level of water infrastructure, that is because of less water source infrastructure, that is about storage reservoirs or dams. It could not be possible to regulate the incoming flood within these structures. So that's also a challenge for water resource development in the country. And according to the World Bank study that was in 2006, it says that Ethiopia's primary water resource management challenges are extreme hydrological variability and seasonality and the international nature of its most significant surface water resources. This justified that the World Bank has even endorsed the need to develop more water storage reservoirs in Ethiopia because of the different challenges. And this one is, as you showed here, as you see in the graph here, this is data recorded at Krese station. Krese station means it is along the Blue Nile, just downstream of the Abebe bridge, if you know someone in that area. So it was recorded for the last 50 years, and it shows that the flow mainly available within 3 to 4 months. That is from July to September to October. So the others are very less. So this is also a challenge just to justify that the flow variability in the rivers. And this one is some of the data that I captured from different studies to show about the insecurity of food, energy, and water in Ethiopia. For instance, in the first one about the food security and life expectancy, this was the study was done in 2008. It shows you that compared to the other neighboring countries like Sudan and Egypt, Ethiopia has less life expectancy and also average daily per capita calories that is estimated less than 2,000, where the others have more than 2,000 as well as 3,000. So this is also to show about the food insecurity of Ethiopia that was in 2008. This figures gives you an idea about the access to electricity that was in 2005. Compared to the other developing countries and Africa, Ethiopia access to electricity at that time was less than 20%. You can see Zimbabwe, Nigeria, South Africa, and also Egypt. So it shows that the access of electricity or the energy demand in that time. The reservoir storage capacity per capita, as I mentioned earlier, that Ethiopia has less storage capacity or water infrastructures. So this shows you that about compared to other countries in Africa and in the world, Ethiopia has about 38 cubic meters per capita compared to the South Africa 687 and the others. In North America 5,961. So it shows that it's justified less storage capacity compared to other developing or developed countries. And this one, the table gives you, it was studied by Webb and Berkeley, that was in 1992 and 2002. It gives you an idea about the recurrent droughts and its effect on the population for the last 50 years. If you see this one, the 1971 to 75, the sequence of rainfall estimated 1,500 dead and 50% of livestock lost in northern Ethiopia because of this drought. And in 1984 to 95, 1 million is dead and 8 million people affected because of the time that shortage of rains in that area. And in 1992, that rainfall estimated 4 million people suffered food shortage in the countries. And in the recently with 2002, 2003, it was estimated that 11.3 million people required food assistance. Overall, this is just to show that the need for more water storage in the dams to regulate the variability of flows in the rivers. This is just to give you an idea of the first dam in Ethiopia. It is called Abasamuel Dam. It was commissioned in 1939 with an installed capacity of 6.6 megawatts. It is a concrete masonry. It is located on the Akaki River, on the Awash River, and its height is about 22 meters. So it is the first hydraulic dams, even it is the first dam in Ethiopia modern dams. But latterly, in the 70s, when major hydroelectric facilities came online, that is Koka, Awash, and Awash 2 and 3, and Fincha, the station was taken out of service. So that's why it was not operational since the 70s. But now recently, Koka is recently rehabilitated and ready for operations to generate the 6.6 megawatts. So this is the first dam in Ethiopia. In terms of classification of dams, we can say that dams can be classified in terms of storage capacity and height, because this is the definition of ICOLD. And also you can classify the dam in terms of potential consequence or impacts on population, property, and environment. In the olden times, usually dams are determined or classified in terms of their storage capacity. But recently, now it is another criteria that's called the potential consequence classification. So when you say about the definition of large dams, the definition of large dams, that is when you say large dams, according to International Commission on Large Dams, a dam with a height of 50 meters or greater from lowest foundations to rest, or a dam between 5 meters and 50 meters, impounding more than 3 million cubic meters. So if the dam is in the range of these heights and storage capacity, we categorized it as large dams. But the second criteria is more focused on the impacts on population, property, and environment. It doesn't recognize about the storage or the heights. It is mainly about the impacts on the downstream areas. That is, for instance, for intro, for the Ethiopian side, the dam class could be from high impact to remote 2, and also the other 3 criteria is loss of life, population at risk, infrastructure, economic, social factors, environmental and cultural factors. So you can classify the number of dams according to these 2 main classifications. When you come to the Ethiopian side, the number of existing large dams in Ethiopia is, according to ICOLD dam classification, there are 38 large dams. That means the height is more than 15 meters, and also all the storage capacity is greater than 3 million cubic meters. So under construction is 5. This is based on the ETCOLD study in 2019. ETCOLD is the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dams. I'll come later about what does it mean. So in terms of potential consequence classification of Ethiopia's dams, that's the preliminary analysis, we did some preliminary analysis about their classification, how it impacts the downstream areas. So this shows you about where the dams, or these 38 dams, are categorized in terms of very high, moderate, low, and remote. So this gives you an idea where you have to focus your dam safety management, more emphasize what needs to be done. So in terms of the very high, and moderate, so when you say very high, for instance, the population at risk and potential for loss of life in inundation area, and also the economic loss affecting infrastructure, public and economic facilities, impacts on ecology, fisheries, water quality, wildlife habitat, rare and or endangered species. So this is categorized according to its impacts on the population, infrastructure, and the environment. And the range is from very high to low or to remote area. So there are some dams, particularly these are very small dams, even though they are categorized under large dams because of their height and storage capacity, but their potential consequence classification is very remote or low. ETCOLD, I said that ETCOLD is the Ethiopian Commission on Large Dam, has adopted interest potential consequence classification systems to classify Ethiopian dams. So the classification that I showed you earlier, we call it the PCC. The PCC enables proportioning appropriate design standards, specifically those for flood and earthquake design, as well as defining level of surveillance and safety inspections, frequency, and parameter. If you go to the first one here, usually large dams or dams designed particularly in developing countries based on criteria developed in the Western world. So that's why, but this one gives you developed specifically for the Ethiopian context. The next one is about, it gives you an idea of about when you are going to inspect the dam in terms of potential consequence classification. If it is categorized, for instance, in the high side, you have to regularly monitor, and if it is at low sides, you don't need to do very rigorous dam safety assessment every year. So this is one of the benefits of this classification of dams in terms of its impact in downstream area. Total storage capacity at this time in Ethiopia is estimated about 40 billion cubic meter, as I mentioned earlier. From these 38 dams, it's estimated about 40 billion cubic meter water is stored, but more than 90% is for hydropower generation. And the storage capacity now is 364 cubic meter per capita. It was 36 in 2005. Now it reached to 364 cubic meter per capita. And Ethiopia's dam types is now, with these 38 dams, we have a variety type of dams in Ethiopia. The concrete dams, for instance, we have arch dams, masonry dams, buttress dams, gravity dams, and RC dams. Even if you go to the embankment dams, we have also homogeneous zoned earth-fill, concrete face rockfill dam, asphaltic face rockfill dam, asphaltic core rockfill dam, clay core rockfill dam. So this gives you, Ethiopia is hosting a different types of dams that could give an opportunity to see about the safety of the different dams. Designed and constructed by Ethiopian engineers and construction firms is more than 20. So this gives you an idea that Ethiopia is not only hiring of international contractors to develop its dams. Ethiopia has also developed its capacity. More than 20 of these 38 dams are have been constructed by the Ethiopian engineers. Till now, as such, we don't have recorded large dam failures in Ethiopia. And the right pictures gives you an idea about the Rib Dam, which is recently commissioned with a height of 73.2 meters and storage capacity of 234 million cubic meter. This dam is constructed by the Ethiopian construction firms. And this one is also the Rima Dam, which is 135 meter high dam, asphaltic concrete with gravel layers and rockfill. So this is also constructed by the Ethiopian contractors. So it gives you an idea. Ethiopia has also building its capacity in terms of dam buildings. And this is some of the existing large dams that gives you an idea about how Ethiopia is hosting very famous dams. The first one, Legadari Dam. This is the water supply dam, which was commissioned in 1970. The dam height is 46 meters. It is intended for supply. It is nearest to the Addis Ababa town. This dam has 4 types of dams in it: a concrete buttress dam, asphaltic concrete core dams, gravity dam and intersection wall, asphaltic face rockfill dam. This is very unique. 4 types of dam in one site. It is very complex, so you need more interactions on the safety aspect of these dams. And this one is the Tekeze Dam. It is the tallest concrete arch dam in Africa. That is a height of 188 meters. This is the tallest arch dams in Africa. And this one is the recently commissioned Gibe 3 Dam. It is the tallest, that is 246 meter, RCC dam in the world. So you can imagine that we have not only building dams, we have also exercised safety management of large and very complex dams in Ethiopia. Coming to the basic concepts about, that is to give you an idea about what is the core principles of dam safety. ICOLD, that is International Commission on Large Dams, defines 9 overarching principles for dam safety. So the first among these, I try to give you 3 of them. That is fundamental dam safety objective is to protect people, property, and the environment from harmful effects of misoperation or failure of dams and reservoirs. This is the key or the overarching objective of a dam safety. You have to give more emphasis on the protection of the downstream community. And also the role of the dam owners. the dam owner is the prime responsibility for operational integrity and safety of the dam. It is not the government, it is not the contractor, it is not the designer or the engineer. It is the dam owner who takes the responsibility of operation of integrity of the dam. And the role of the government or regulatory authorities is usually provision of legal and institutional framework for pre-operational and operational integrity and safety assurance. So the government has to set up proper or standard legal and institutional frameworks to properly implement standard dam safety at national level. To give you an idea about the dam failure around the world, this is recently published by the ICOLD, International Commission on Large Dams. When we say a dam failure, it gives you an idea about dam failures. It is a catastrophic incident characterized by uncontrolled release of impounded water and or total loss of integrity of the dam structures, its foundation or abutment. This is a general definition of what we say about dam failures. Actually, there are some definition by other institutions about dam failures. Sometimes they call it dam incidents. So this is the definition of ICOLD. So up to now, from the data of ICOLD, there have been 311 dam failures recorded. Of the totals, 35,230 large dams listed in the ordered register of dam. So it gives you that 311 dams were failed out of these 35,230 large dams. So the right graph shows you about which dam is the most vulnerable to dam failures. This is a barrage, this is Earthfield. You can see that the Earthfield dam, total Earthfield dams is about 209 dams have been failed. And also the next one is about gravity. Gravity, it encompasses about embankment dams. When you say gravity dams, it means, for instance, if there is embankment components to the right or to the left flanks, we call it as gravity. Usually such type of dams are available in Sudan and Egypt. In the middle, there is a gravity dam, but on the right and left bank or abutment, it is more of the rockfill dam or embankment dams, Earthfield dams. So the third one is the rockfill dams. So you can see that you have to be careful more on the Earthfield dams in terms of their safety, and buttress dams and arch dams. So what are the major causes of dam failure around the world? The embankment dams from this statistics of the ICOLD 2020, Earthfield dam and rockfill dams are the main causes for the type of dams exposed to failure. In terms of the embankment, overtopping is 43.7%. This is overtopping is caused by, it could be from the inadequate spillway capacity or inadequate freeboard or some operational errors in the gates. It covers about 43.7%. From concrete dams, the structural failure, that is 27.1 because of the material or the construction type or the foundations related materials. So this is just to give you an idea where is the concern has to be on the safety aspect of the dams. So this is just to give you an idea of the main cause of failure of dams, but studies shows that it is not only extreme, says that experience has shown that many dam failures and perhaps the majority of dam incidents do not result from extreme geophysical loss, but rather from operational events like that we said that earlier. It is not because of earthquake or it is not because of the flood. It is a combination of usual events and it is from the operational events. So it shows you it is not only one single sources or causes of failures. It is a combination of events that could lead to the failure of the dam. The number of dam failures has been decreasing over time. This is the right picture shows you about the Teton dams that is failed in 1976 because of the internal erosion. So the recent study shows that the number or the percent of dam failures is gradually decreasing from 1.42% from 1900 to 1925 to 0.12% as of 2000. This is ICOLD bulletins of 99. So what is the reason to reduce this percent? ICOLD has assessed and come up with suggestions that it is because of diligent application of best available engineering design, construction, maintenance, robust management, and operational practice account for the improvement. So it gives you an idea because of this best practices in the design and construction of dams, the percent of failures is gradually decreasing. The dam safety assessment approach, here just to give you an idea about how do you assess your dams, the safety of the dams. There are two types of dam safety assessments, that is rational, standard-based, and also risk-informed decision-making. This is recently comes to pictures. That is, the first one is more of the deterministic approach, based on recognized good practices, conservative safety margins. It is usually based on the safety factor and loss. You would consider different types of dams, loads with this safety factor. So it is an oldish style of safety assessment of dams. But the next one is risk-informed decision, is current, emerging, integrated risks, rigorous, systematic, widely practiced in developed countries. Actually, risk-informed could be classified or divided into two, that is in terms of quantitative and also a qualitative approach. So one of the qualitative approach of this risk-informed decision is about the potential failure mode analysis. That is called PFM. This is the risk-informed decision-making approach introduced by FERIC, that is in the USA. It is widely practiced in the United States of America. This type of assessment is also included in the Ethiopian dam safety guidelines. I'll give you some example on this, how we assess our dams in Ethiopia. Policy and strategy and guidelines. This is just to give you about the development of policy and strategy in Ethiopia. This is the first one is to give you about the pre-water resource management policy period, that is from 1940 to 1999. So that was slow rate of dam development and less recognition for dam safety management because the number of dams at that time was very minimal. No responsible regulatory entity at national level, no oversight of dam owners. So the dam owners themselves are the one who monitor or inspect their dams. More emphasis on micro small dam constructions following major drought events of 1973, 1974 to 1984 to 1985. As I mentioned earlier, because of this drought events in Ethiopia, it is more emphasized on the development of micro and small dams. 1999 to date, so the Ethiopian water resource management policy came to pictures in 1999. So this is the Ethiopian water resource management policy endorsed in 1999. And this one is the Ethiopian water sector strategy, which was approved in 2002, 2001. So the first time that the policy, this Ethiopian water resource management policy, include about the component of dam safety. It says that under dams and reservoir management and operations, says provides guidelines concerning dams and reservoirs operations and safety procedures. In the articles 2.7 regarding disaster, emergencies and public safety, ensure and promote the safety of water retaining transmission and diversion structures like weirs, barrage dams, reservoirs, and pipelines against natural and man-made disasters. So based on this policy, the strategy is to translate the policy into action. So the Ethiopian water sector strategy, that was in 2001, it says that ensure the safety of water structures and carry out periodic safety checks. So this gives an idea or a road or a way to emphasize or to think about dam safety at national levels. Now, ETCOLD, that is the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dam, has recognized the need to develop a national dam safety guidelines. Because of the number of, these are the reasons that needs to develop a guidelines. Because number of aging dams is increasing, development and expansion of urbanization in downstream areas increasing, growing number of large and complex dams being constructed and operated, growing need for increasing capacity of dam safety management, absence of dam safety guidelines and regulations, growing threat of climate change impacts such as extreme events. With these issues, or taking into consideration these challenges, ETCOLD has suggested to develop a national dam safety guidelines. So this is the dam safety guideline developed by ETCOLD that was in October 2014. And the guideline draws experience from ICOLD, the United States Bureau of Commission, USCBR, the FERIC, and also the Australia National Committee on Large Dams experience. It develops its guideline based on these experiences. The guideline has 4 chapters and 4 appendices. And the main content of the guidelines is it addresses the entire life of the dam, planning, design, construction, operation, and refurbishment of and upgrades. It gives you an idea about what issues or what are the actions to be taken in your planning, design, construction, operation of dams, and also presents the framework for dam safety management programs and defines the roles and responsibilities of regulators, dam owners, and specialists. Actually, this will be discussed in detail in the dam safety regulation, but in the guidelines, it was attempted to give you a basic idea about the roles and responsibilities of the regulators and also dam owners. It gives you about a framework for dam safety assessment approach. It gives you an idea about how to assess your dam, what approach have to be done, and what would be the frequency of safety assessment in terms of the potential consequence classifications. I say that it defines the frequency of inspection as per the potential consequence classification. So this guideline, finally, after it was developed by the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dams, it was peer-reviewed by the international dam safety specialists. Institutional aspects. Now this is just to give you how an institutional arrangement is done with respect to dam safety. In 2004, the Ministry of Water Resources assigned Dams and Hydropower Design Department, as I mentioned earlier. After the policy was endorsed, it starts about thinking of the dam safety at national level. So the department is assigned to oversee the implementation of the Ethiopian water resource sector policy and strategy with respect to the dam safety. So at that time, it was established under the Dams and Hydropower Design Department. Accordingly, the department established a task team composed of civil engineers, geologists, electromechanical engineers, soil and environmental experts from the department, and undertook periodic visual monitoring and evaluation of dams, both operational and under constructions. Actually, what they did was just to monitor and respect the physical arrangement of the structures without doing any detailed assessment. And prepared field assessment reports highlighting identified issues and remedial actions recommended to dam owners. So finally, they submit the reports to the dam owners, what their findings are, also some issues to be, actions to be taken. And finally, during their annual visits, they provide implementation of recommendation actions. They request the owners whether they implement the recommended action or not. As it was suggested, there was no as such any enforcement or regulatory framework. This is just about only a visual or a technical visit to assess the safety of the dams without any enforcement. ETCOLD is the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dams. It was established and became a member of ICOLD. That was in 2007. ETCOLD is a professional association established to promote best practices in the planning, design, construction, operation, maintenance, and refurbishment of dams and associated structures. It supports government in capacity building, safety assessment, reviewing study and design reports, and developing guidelines. This is a professional association. So it is member of the International Commission on Large Dams. ICOLD, if you know, some of you, I think you know about the ICOLD, that's International Commission on Large Dams, established in 1928. It has also more than 100 member countries. These figures or this picture shows you that ICOLD, the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dams, has organized a training programs and also a consultation programs with the dam owners or the regulators and also from the academia. And these are reports submitted after the consultation meeting. So one of the roles of the ETCOLD is to organize capacity building programs or training programs for different stakeholders. The Ethiopian Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy recognized the urgency of institutionalizing dam safety. So earlier it was done by the Department of Dams and Hydropower. Now the government has recognized that now it has to be as a unit or independent department to address the safety of the dam. So the ministry established a Dam Safety Directorate in 2016. So this is a picture that when it was the launching workshop of the establishment of the Dam Safety Directorate. And the Dam Safety Directorate guides formulation of policies, regulations, and overall to set up standard dam safety management in Ethiopia. And the National Dam Safety Regulatory Framework is under development and will be key in mainstreaming dam safety at national level. We have the policy, we have the strategy, we have the guidelines. So now the Ministry of Water is now developing this regulatory framework. Hopefully it will be finalized soon. Practice and experience about the dam safety assessment. This is a situation assessment done for the Eastern Nile countries. That was in 2016. There was a dam safety program for the Eastern Nile countries, that is Ethiopia, Egypt, Sudan, and South Sudan. So the situation assessment came up with key findings, that is in terms of the dam safety management in the Eastern Nile countries. It says that inadequate competence and institutional arrangement in planning, construction, operation, and safety management of dams. Dams are aged, particularly in the downstream countries, constructed or old dated standards and technology, uncertainty of climate change, that is implication of operation and safety of dams, more water storage dams being constructed, particularly on transboundary rivers, inadequate regional basin-wide cooperation between the countries, incompatibility of safety codes, design criteria and standards on dam design, operation, and safety management. Ethiopia has done, the design codes and standards is different from what Ethiopia has done to Sudan and Egypt. This is just to show that there is a difference of course and design criteria in the management of dams. So to address these challenges or key findings, it was suggested to develop a framework or a roadmap. So the roadmap developed for a comprehensive regional dam safe programs in the Eastern Nile regions. It puts on the timeline also the key action to be taken by the countries and as well as by regional institutions to address the dam safety issue in the Eastern Nile countries. So in coordination with the Eastern Nile Regional Office, one of the recommendations of the assessment of the Eastern Nile is to enhance the capacity of experts in the Nile Basin countries, in the Eastern Nile countries. So in coordination with the Eastern Nile Technical Regional Office, more than 65 Ethiopian experts trained, not only dam engineers or geologists, policymakers, dam owners, dam operators, government and private construction firms. These all are participated in the training programs. 6 large dams assessed for safety, that is Tekeze, Koka, Fincha, Neshi, and Amarti. This is part of the Ethiopian side. The safety of small dams in the Eastern Nile sub-basins reviewed, and key issues in design, construction, and operation phases identified. in the right side, this picture gives you the Ethiopian experts doing their work or assessment of the Abebe Dam. They were at the Abebe Dams. They did the PFMA assessment of the Abebe Dams with the support of one international consultant. And this one is the assessment of Koka Dam in Ethiopia. This is the second large dams in Ethiopia, concrete dam in Ethiopia, which was commissioned in 1960. This is just practical exercise of experts on the safety assessment of dams. Example of PFMA in Ethiopia, Koka Dam. This is just to give you an idea that it is not new for Ethiopian experts to assess safety of dams. They have a good experience. They develop their capacity on safety assessment of embankment dams, concrete dams. So this is just to show you that they have also good experience on that. The Koka Dam is located in the Ethiopian Rift Valley system, commissioned in 1960. It is intended for the hydropower generation, that's about 43 megawatt, but it has also a regulation effect for the downstream power plants. There are two runoff river points in downstream area, Awash 2 and Awash 3, which depends on the regulated water of the Koka Dam. And overall, the aggregated capacity is about 107 megawatt. The main dam is 426 meters long and comprises 3 sections. A concrete buttress spillway with 4 radial gates, maximum height above foundation is 40 meters, and earth embankment saddle dams 3 kilometers south of the main dams. Here I said that located in the Ethiopian Rift Valley system, more or less it is on the seismic area. So Ethiopia has also experience in managing and constructing of dams in the seismic areas. During the potential failure modes analysis, we have identified about 23 potential failure modes identified. Just to make it that it is not a failure mode, but it's a potential, possible cause of failure of the dams or possible cause of failures that trigger the integrity of the dam. We emphasized on the main dam and spillways. So out of these 23, the main dam, overall, the integrity of the dam found to be in good conditions. Imagine that this dam has served more than 60 years, but still the integrity is at good conditions. In the spillway, the potential failure of the gate host, there was some problems with the hoist cables and or chains and inability to operate the spillway gates during floods. So it was recommended that repair the hoist of the spillway before the flood comes to the reservoir. And forecasting system. So it is needed that well-established meteorological and flood forecasting system has to be in place. At that time, it was not there. So the recommendation was introduced effective hydrometeorological forecasting systems. The reason that was suggested here is because the operation of the reservoir depends on the reservoir level and the incoming flood at that time. So it was suggested to introduce the effective hydrometeorological forecasting systems. The bottom outlet, that's also one of the potential failure mode we have identified. The gas is not operable, or it was not functional due to silt deposits limiting its discharge capacity during floods. So the recommendation was to ensure sliding gates is operational and clean up sediment behind the gate. These are some of the issues that we identified and suggested for further action. So after the review process, the Dam Safety Directorate, that is under the Ministry of Water, Irrigation Energy, has been following owners' action on the recommendations. Usually they properly or follow up the implementation of the recommendations by the assessment team. So it has been confirmed that all wastes were repaired in 2019 and the spillway properly discharged the 2020 high flood. Hydrogen Water Source Quality Directorate, that is under the Ministry of Water, and the regulator, in collaboration with the Ethiopia Meteorological Authority, has developed a modeling tool and scheduled to make a pilot test is upcoming 2021, that is the flood seasons. So the sliding gate was opened and started operation since January 2020, and the sediment load upstream of the gas had been cleaned. This was already confirmed by the Dam Directorate, that's the Dam Safety Directorate. So this is just to show you that these are the red column shows that the very critical issues, the flood failure of the spillways, the bottom outlet, and also the forecasting systems. This is need immediate or urgent actions. So that's why we suggested to make some recommendation on that one. So the same process, the same PFM assessment and remedial measures have been practiced on Takeze, Koga, Fincha, Neshi, Amarti, Lagadadi, Gafarsa, and Redam. So we have developed our experience on the safety assessment of dams, particularly using the potential failure mode analysis. The other thing regarding to the capacity building is that Dam Safety Directorate has taken several measures to strengthen national capacity. In addition to development of regulation and also guidelines, the Directorate has also taken initiative to enhance the capacity of experts working on the dam sectors. Commissioned international dam safety experts to assess the safety of existing and unoperational dams and provide technical training to dam owners, regulators, private and government engineering firms, contractors. This is, for instance, one of the international dam safety experts. He's also the chairperson of the Seismic Committee of International Commission on Large Dams Committee. So he provided training on seismic design and performance criteria for large storage dams. So we are also, the Dam Safety Directorate is also doing a good job on capacity building, addressing different issues related to the dam safety aspects. The next section is just to give you an idea. I'm not going to detail about the safety of these structures, but to give you what is going on the Grand Ethiopian Dam. This is at least some of the features or the characteristics of the dams. So it is, the GERD is designed and being constructed with state-of-the-art dam safety practices to suit site conditions and intended purpose of the dams. In March 2011, a national dam safety panel of experts, that is technical advisory panel, was established by the ministers. And the main objective or purpose of this national dam safety panel of experts is to advise the government on GERD dam safety related aspects. So the members of this committee or panel are from private and government consulting firms, construction companies, dam owners, academia, and regulators. So this panel meets regularly and reviews the progress made with site visit and report review. It gives you an idea that in addition to the international panel of experts, the government has also assigned a technical team who have good experience on dam engineering to advise him on the safety aspects. In addition to that, the government of Ethiopia invited in good faith Egypt and Sudan to form an international panel of experts to review the design documents of the GERD. As most of you know that in 2012, the international panel of experts, that is IPA, comprising of 4 international and 6 national experts, 2 each from the 3 countries, was established. And the panel reviewed the design documents and construction process in line with international standards, practices, and guidelines. In May 2013, the panel submitted the findings and recommendations to the government of Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. The key issues to be addressed by Ethiopia in terms of construction and safety aspects. So one of the tasks of the NPD, that is the National Panel of Dam Safety Experts, is to oversee the implementation of the IPA recommendations. So the National Panel is closely following about the implementation of the IPA into action. This is also to show you that the dam safety of the GERD project is going well, because that in the agreement on declaration of principle between the 3 countries, that's Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan, that was in 2015. that Article 8, the principle of dam safety, stated that the three countries appreciate the efforts undertaken thus far. Ethiopia in implementing the IPA recommendation pertinent to the GARD safety. Ethiopia shall in good faith continue the full implementation of the dam safety recommendation as per the IPA report. This recognition is also given to the standard practice of dam safety management, even during construction times at GARD project. So the first filling of the reservoir, as you know, it was filled in July 2020. So the first filling of the reservoir has been completed. Dam monitoring, observation, and performance assessment have demonstrated consistency with the design assumptions and consideration. I think there was no such any difficult situations or difficult observations, abnormality observed after the filling of the dam. So conclusion and the key message, this is the key message that Ethiopia has progressively built national capacity in the design, construction, and operation of a range of dam types, sizes, and complexes, as showed you before. A lot of type of dams with a different range of heights is existing in Ethiopia. Ethiopia has succeeded in nationalizing dam safety, commensurate policies, strategies, and guidelines have been formulated. This is also a good step, and requisite capacities are being built and expertise being expanded. So progress made so far has regional significance. So it is not only this capacity development only for the Ethiopian side, it has also regional significance, particularly for downstream countries. Thank you.
Thank you for the excellent presentation. Now we'll go to questions. You can raise your hand and then I'll call on you. Okay, Dr. Lamma, the first question.
Thank you. Thanks for the presenter for such a comprehensive coverage of the program, and it sounds like a very well established practice. I'm glad to hear that. One thing that struck me is the absence of even a mention of the instrumentations, surveillance through instrumentation. That should be a constant feature of dam safety programs on any dam or any significant dam. And I was honestly very surprised by the absence of mentions. It seems to be based on and dependent on field visits, which is important, but that is not sufficient. We can go into details depending on the type of the dam and the size of the dam, what kind of surveillance, and especially in a country where seismic activity is significant. So I would like to hear to Mikhail's explanation on that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, go ahead, Michael, address this one, and then we'll go to getting that.
Okay. Thank you. I think it is a very pertinent questions. Actually, I didn't mention with instrumentation and also the surveillance, but instrumentation and surveillance is a very key point for the safety assessment of dam. When I talk about the PFMA, the potential failure analysis, one of the basic criteria, one of the basic inputs to the assessment is to get data and information from the instruments, because this instruments and surveillance gives you the health of the dam itself. So this is when I didn't mention that one, but it is a basic thing to assess the safety of the dams. When I said finally regarding the GARD dams, that the performance of the dam during the filling period was successful, it is based on the data and analysis of this surveillance and instruments. So sorry not to mention that, but it is a basic thing to assess the safety of a dam. Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to getting that for the next question. Are you there? Are you muted? Getting that you are muted. We can't hear you. Okay. Go ahead. Getting that, are you there? All right, we'll go to Getu, and we might come back to him if he's there. All right, let's hear from Getu.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Mike, for a great presentation highlighting some of the dam safety regulations and management you guys are doing in Ethiopia. I just have a couple of questions. One question is, I know from your presentation, I understand the regulator is a Dam Safety Director. And I was just wondering, in terms of the owner of the dam, who is the owner actually in Ethiopia? The second question I have is, in terms of dam safety review, what's the practice actually? Is it an independent dam safety review, or I know the annual inspection can be done by the owner, but in terms of, let's say, the regular, as per guidelines, the regular dam safety review, every 5 year or 7 year or 10 year, is it an independent dam safety review? And the third question I have is also if you can provide some highlight in terms of the emergency management plans that you have for dam safety. Thanks.
Thank you. Actually, with respect to the dam owners, as you know, most of these dams in Ethiopia are owned by the government entities, by the power companies, and also by water utilities. Most of them are owned by the government, I can say that one. Regarding about the dam safety review procedures, we have already outlined that in the guidelines. Who is going to review the dam safety every 5 years? We have some inspection tables according to the potential consequence classifications. In the guideline, it says that by approved engineers, that is independent from the government side. The common practice here in Ethiopia is now we are inviting independent experts from foreign countries to make some visits, but we are building our capacity to develop approved engineers on this regards to review the safety of the dam independently. But we have already outlined the requirements and also the frequency of inspections in the guidelines. The emergency management plan, actually the dam owners are the one who is developing this emergency management plan, but the guideline has already stipulated the basic components that has to be considered in the emergency management plan. Thank you.
All right, anyone with a question? Getting that, are you question?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the good presentation. I'm very interested. I will follow in this guideline. I want to know who makes this guideline.
The guideline is actually, I mentioned, there is one guideline developed for the Eastern Nile countries, Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and also South Sudan. They developed one guideline. So Ethiopia adopts this guideline from the regional dam safety guideline. The regional dam safety guideline, it was discussed, reviewed by the regional experts and endorsed by the Ministry of Water of the 3 countries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone with question? I don't see any hands. You can speak up, anyone with any question.
Yeah, just to follow up on my question on dams emergency management plan, Mike, I just want to know, like in terms of emergency management plan, did the stakeholders also involve in developing the and also executing the emergency management plan?
Yes, of course. One of the criteria is to engage the stakeholders, particularly the downstream residents, in the process of development. Otherwise, it cannot be practical unless you consider them.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Mike.
All right, any other question? I have one question. Do you have experience of leaks, seepage, or problems with dams and where corrections were made?
Actually, I have mentioned earlier, of which we don't have a series of problems in the large dams. There are some, but of course it's not a significant challenge for the integrity of the dam itself.
All right, I think pretty much.
Please, I not have a question, but I have a request. I want to send me my, this material is my email. Is this impossible? You can send me.
Let me comment on this. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed or Ms. Ahmed. We will handle this. So this presentation is recorded. So if we are allowed, we will make it public. And also with the blessing of Michael, we can share the PowerPoint. But at this point, I can't promise you that. Yeah.
Actually, if you want to download the Dam Safety Guideline for the Eastern Nile countries, you go to the website and ask Eastern Nile Regional Dam Safety Guidelines. You can easily download from the websites.
That's good. All right, any other question?
Okay. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. During this monitoring, I think the flood forecasting should be checked after some time interval. So the method in most of Ethiopia large dams, they use the PMF and half PMF to check the spillway capacity. So, and the method they used is this statistical method. I think it is because of data, but in most research, this method will forecast the magnitude of the flood is very large compared to the hydrometeorological method. So how you see these two gaps? Thank you.
Actually, that's also a good question. That's what I mentioned earlier. There is disparity of approach in the analysis of design for dams in Ethiopia. So that was also a challenge for us. And recently, the Eastern Nile Technical Regional Office, INTRO, has already agreed with the financer to develop standard design flood analysis guideline for the Eastern Nile countries, because there are some different approaches. That's why now we are developing the way how to, not only the PMF, how to analyze also the different return period floods, the 10,000 years or 1,000 years flood, with a different approach from international best practice. Thank you.
Wasanu, can I add on this? This is Semu.
All right, okay.
Thank you very much, Mikhail, for a nice presentation. I think I would like to shed light on this particular question. The guy who asked on this question has mixed up the design parameters or the design criteria with the current flood forecasting. We know the design criteria in Ethiopia is highly conservative. It is close to PMP, which is extraordinary. And in that regard, most of our designs in terms of hydrological safety, flood safety, are above the safety level. I can assure you, because the design criteria sometimes are extraordinarily high. In that case, that question remains on the design part. The design floods are a little bit conservative, and the new standard guidelines are being envisaged nowadays. But the flood forecasting portion for monitoring dams is something different from that design which already has been done. So we don't expect the floods in that part of the world to exceed the PMP so far. As far as I'm hydrologist, and we are also with Mikhail, we have done some analysis. So I think in terms of hydrological safety, they are more than safe. They can accommodate, the spillways accommodate floods more than we anticipate in the design criteria. So that's what I want to highlight. There is a difference between flood design parameters as well as flood forecasting, which is about, say, incoming floods in the future. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Just to add what Dr. Sam has mentioned regarding the design criteria, we have already put in the guidelines about which dam has to use the PMF and which dam has to use the 10,000 years flood or 1,000 years. We have tried to adapt the criteria from the International Commission on Large Dam. So now it is based on the potential consequence classification. So it is not depending on the willingness or the need of the consultant, but it depends on the impact classification. Thank you.
All right. I think if there is no question, thank you very much, Michael, for your excellent presentation.
Asaf? Yeah, we have still two people who rose their hand, Getnet and also Lamma again. Getnet, can you?
Okay. All right, Getnet, can you hear us?
Or let's go to Dr. Lamma. He has another question.
All
Dr.
right.
Lamma?
Okay, thank you. Someone, Lou?
Yeah.
Someone.
Okay. My question is, I saw the agencies that when Michael explained that the organization works with, or the Ethiopian Dam Safety Group works with, essentially I was paying attention to the fact that they work with the USBR, but there is also the absence of not seeing the American Army Corps of Engineers. The reason I raised the question is in addition to my own feeling what the difference in input is from the two organizations. Even in the United States, the Corps of Engineers establishes the criteria for different conditions, whether you use PMF or certain return period or whatnot. These are factors based on population downstream of structures or other issues, economic and so forth. But there are these, and then the PMF being large, and it really keeps growing as we get more and more data and more hydrologic information on weather. So the question I have is Ethiopian, the Water Resources Department and Ato Mikhail's group, do you have access to, or do you work with the Corps of Engineers, or you are limited to work with the USBR only? I can also understand and appreciate America has its own way or criteria for who internationally gets access to American organizations, and it is through the State Department and Interior that America interacts with other countries, and the Corps of Engineers is considered local and not international. However, if you go beyond the different diplomatic issues, when it comes to technical issues, the basis for establishing practices and criteria, especially in the dam safety, the Corps of Engineers has a bigger share of applying and testing and so forth. If you could comment on that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I think the Ethiopian Committee on Large Dams, that is ETCOLD, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States Society of Dams. We have already signed MOU with them. We work with them. So this United States Society of Dams are members of ICOLD. So members of the USSD are from the Army Corps of Engineers, from the USBR, from university. So that association or the United States Society of Dams have members from the different organizations in the US. So we are not specifically working with the USBR, but we are working with the USBR as well as with the Army Corps of Engineers. But in general, we have a good work relationship with the United States Society of Dams. As such, we don't have specific guidelines or approach only for the USBR. We are working with all of them. Based on the guidelines, as I mentioned before, when we reviewed the international best practices, we reviewed the Canadians guidelines, the ICOLD, the Australians. So we draw from this guidelines, which is switched to the, or appropriate for the Ethiopian conditions. We do not only specific to the USCBR guidelines. We even also use the FERIC guidelines. So it's not only for the USCBR if possible. So I couldn't say that is only for USCBR. Even the Army Corps of Engineers also engaged in the process of these guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, next, Abata has question. Let's go to Abata. Please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Wasanu. And thank you, Michael, for a very good presentation, and I learned a lot from it. Thank you also, especially for the history of dams in Ethiopia. That's very important, and also for the capacity building of the Ethiopians, not only in the design aspect, but on the safety side also. My question is, apart from the individuals' questions regarding the safety of the GERD dam, is there any question raised by the Sudan and Egypt in the negotiation at this time regarding the safety of the GERD? If you could elaborate on this, I appreciate. And I know that in the past, at least sometimes back, even Sudan and Egypt were talking about the dam safety risks of the GERD dam, but is it still now there? Because you told us that there is Eastern Nile dam safety, also dam guidelines, which is established by the, at least by the involvement of these three countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think because when we talk about the dam safety is not an issue only during constructions. It is an issue during the forest filling. It is an issue during the operation period. So the downstream countries may raise this issue regarding about the operation, or further about securing the safety of the dams during the operational period. So actually, I don't have recent data on their request, but when they raised the dam safety, the safety issue is not only at one stage or just construction stage. The safety is also available during the operational period. So the countries may collaborate. I think they are going to discuss on this one with themselves. Thank you.
Is Getinat there? Getinat, you are muted if you have any question. Go ahead.
I'm available. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Okay, thank you for the opportunity. And Mike, thank you for your wonderful presentation. I believe my questions have been raised by Dr. Getu, but I'm not sure if I have an adequate answer for them. It is in general related to dam safety program, an effective program related to dam safety review in terms of the frequency as well as the quality of an external independent reviewer. Just clarity on that. And the other one is, do we have really an effective OMS manual, just operation maintenance and surveillance, which is mentioned before by Dr. Lamma? That is key for the safety of every dam. And the other one is emergency response plan. Do we have inundation map for each dam, including GERD? And just on those three key issues, dam safety review, OMS manual, as well as emergency response plan. And my other question is there any opportunities where anybody for that matter could help improve the existing or the planned dam safety management plan? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Regarding the frequency and quality of the independent review, I think I already mentioned earlier that in the guideline, it is clearly articulated the frequency of dam safety assessment depending on their potential consequence classification. It's already there in the guidelines. And also it demands about who is going to review independently. What would be the qualification of the expert to review the safety of the assessment? It's already included in the guidelines. The only thing is now become these regulations. The regulations may support to enforce the implementation of the guidelines. Otherwise, all what I've already issued, you raised, is addressed in the guidelines. Regarding operation maintenance and surveillance manual, yes, recent dams completed or commissioned have already this manual, but the old ones, I don't think that they have proper operation and maintenance surveillance, because some of them are aged dams that could not be available with them. The emergency response plan, as I mentioned before, every dam has to have this emergency response plan. It has to develop in coordination with the downstream community and also in coordination with the disaster management agency in Ethiopia. But I don't have a such detailed list of dams who have these guidelines or this manual. The last one that you raised about the opportunity to help the dam safety management in Ethiopia, you are welcome. We need a lot of support from abroad who have experience on the dam safety activity. We can also communicate on that one in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Is there, do you still have question, Getu, or?
Yes, I just have a quick question.
All right.
Thanks. Mike, I just want to get information from you. I noticed on your presentation you have about 38 dams. Just clarification, are those large dams we are talking, or the total dams in Ethiopia?
No, it is specifically large dams, which
Large
fulfills the criteria of ICOLD.
Okay, and out of those 38 dams, how many are embankment dams actually?
I don't remember them, but most of them are embankment dams.
Okay.
Most of them, definitely most of them, more than 50% are embankment dams.
Okay, and just one last question. Is there any regulation in terms of dams that are not qualified as a large dams from dam safety point of view?
That is part of the regulations that what we are going to develop now.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
All right. I think this time we're pretty much done with the questions. Asaf, can you go ahead and close it?
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Mikhail, for excellent presentations and responses to the number of questions and comments raised. This has definitely cleared the number of questions that was raised during our Summer International GERD Conference. And I believe we will continue to participate in our future webinar series, and we will announce the next seminar series soon. Please, we'll send email and we'll send invitation where you can actually register. Again, thank you very much. So we will wish you happy holidays, and we'll see you next year in a new seminar which will be announced soon. Thank you very much again. Thank you, everybody.